Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. The actor status system is an important part of Alpha 3.0 and beyond for Star Citizen. This is a summary of that topic. The actor status system, not abbreviated to ASS for some reason, ASS, is made up of a few components: buffs, debuffs, stamina, health, breathing, exertion, and G-forces. It's important for all of these to go into the same and through the same system, as it affects all characters, and breaking these systems up would be extremely inefficient. The actor status system started off as a kill trigger, where when you left airlocks without a helmet in a certain area, you'd just be killed. That was in Alpha 2.0, but people still found ways to glitch through walls because the system effectively faked killing people. It didn't look at the atmosphere or what was killing you. It just said if you go through this airlock and cycle it without a helmet, you'd die. The room system, however, defines the atmospheric composition of every room or space, how air travels between them, and what it's connected to. They had to redo all the doorways, as basically airlocks. Opening a door in 3.0 now allows for normalization of atmosphere between two areas being connected, or at least for that atmospheric composition to change between those two rooms. Doors will now also indicate if there's an atmospheric issue on the other side, using a red light just saying there's something wrong behind this door. It could be venting into space, or there could be poison there, or something like that. At a glance as well, players are going to know what condition their characters are in. This is done with various visual and audio cues. You can use the Mobi-glass, your helmet will have a HUD, but sometimes you're not going to have either up, you're going to be in your civvies. Audio cues are synced with your character's breathing, heart rate and heartbeat, and have a tempo map for all ranges. There's even 13 different breathing styles split between FPS and piloting. This can range with your breathing and stuff between a BPM, your beats per minute of your heart, between 20 and 190. You'll hear the hic technique, where pilots try to increase their blood pressure to the head by straining and making the sound when you try and pull high G maneuvers. The Mobi-glass, helmet HUD and audio cues all give us the tools as players to see the conditions surrounding us and our statuses, but it's up to the players how they use that info. Your helmet's going to give you basic info on your heart rate, oxygen remaining, limb damage, buffs and debuffs. The Mobi-glass is going to give you a lot more information on the pressure and external atmospheric composition. Post effects are going to be used to display visually several status effects. Their effects can stack, but visually they will be different from each other, and they've set some limits to those effects as well, so they don't entirely overpower each other or effectively make you blind when you're suffering from hypoxia and slight blood loss. They don't want your screen to be entirely black or anything like that, unless you've blacked out, for example, which you can do. Buffs. So buffs, bleeding is a debuff in 2.6.3 right now. When a location starts to bleed, you'll get 1 stack of damage and take 1 damage per second from that area. This will stack with other body parts as well, so if you're wounded in both arms, you'd be bleeding 2 health per second. Damage to a particular limb will affect your ability to do tasks. Take damage in your arm, you might be less accurate or able to deal with recoil. Leg damage will increase your cost for jumping and sprinting, as well as lower your speed. And when I say cost, it's your stamina cost, which we'll talk about in a second. Torso damage will decrease your stamina pool and stamina regeneration. Running out of stamina or pulling too many Gs will cause a player to pass out. The ASS, or active status system, will continue to grow and may encompass other effects like poisoning, other debuffs, getting drunk, needing the toilet, long-term diseases, light survival mechanics like eating and drinking, that sort of stuff, and depressurization, radiation sickness, that sort of stuff. G-forces. The current system they have for G-forces is actually pretty good, but they need a more contextual system for objects and not just human players, as well as being simple enough to run on all entities at the same time. So what I mean by this is unsecured cargo, for example, needs to fall over and move about when a ship accelerates. Their new solution will look at the accumulated velocity of any entity, whether it be a player or a good or a something that's just in a physics grid, and it will look at all the physics grids that they are inside of. They will take the linear and angular velocity of an entity and the parent space and use this to track changes in velocity and G-force. So yeah, you'll have cargo that's unsecured flying around. You could potentially have players or items flying around a ship as well if they're not particularly stored well. Stamina and breathing. If your character has been running or out of breath, your aim will be affected. deep breaths being taken by your character will basically move your aim up and down, and you can hold your breathing as well, and if you're taking shots, because breathing will affect you even if you're not out of breath, as it were, but you can hold your breath, but that will take a stamina cost. Stamina is affected by atmospheric composition, assuming that you weren't wearing a suit or helmet, that is. Your breathing will consume oxygen in a room and replace it with a little carbon dioxide, but it will also regenerate your stamina based on the oxygen in the atmosphere, and you literally breathing in will regenerate some stamina. The breathing system literally queries your nearby area to find oxygen for when you breathe in, so at some points you might not get an optimal stamina regeneration if there's not much oxygen left in the atmosphere. If there is no oxygen in a room, there is no stamina regeneration, and players will begin to suffocate. Helmets themselves are rooms in the room system, so effectively putting a helmet on will have its own atmospheric composition. You equip a helmet with an oxygen tank, then you'll have optimal stamina regeneration. There is a filter that's going to remove carbon dioxide from your helmet and a gas tank that maintains pressure by feeding it oxygen. Not having a helmet, or having a helmet but not having it connected to a breathing system, will mean that you breathe in the atmosphere of the room in question, and low pressure, noxious gases, low oxygen are all your enemies in that case. Having a helmet equipped constantly will consume oxygen from your tank. That could be costly. You might not have enough room in your ship to have lots of oxygen tanks. Oxygen might have quite an expensive cost in the game. We don't actually know. They want gameplay where you're encouraged to wear normal clothing, but have to rush to lockers to get your suit and helmet on quickly if something goes wrong. The main stamina consumer is movement. The stamina drain depends on the equipment you've got equipped, the weight, your stance, actions that you're doing, and the movement slope. So walking upstairs is going to consume more stamina than walking down. Actions actually increase your heart rate in-game and affect how quickly you will consume oxygen. So 10 minutes of oxygen in a tank might only last 1 minute at a sprint. Every action will consume stamina, even idling just in tiny amounts, and the idea is that oxygen will regenerate your stamina quickly if you're idling. Stopping and standing still while having access to oxygen is going to give you the best stamina regen. The gameplay intention is for strategic and tactical thinking while aiming and moving, because this is going to be heavily affected when you run and stuff like that. So this moves away from run and gun gameplay that we currently have in 2.6.3. Player abilities are the secondary consumers of stamina as well, so you can only do an ability if you have enough stamina to do it, and these are things like jumping or vaulting. The costs of stamina for abilities are defined as an instant cost for jumping or vaulting, so literally a one-off burst cost of stamina if you wanted to jump over something, a lasting cost if you're running or holding your breath. It's going to use stamina for however long you use that ability for, and there's also conditional costs, which is an instant cost, but also it's dependent on what other abilities and actions you're currently doing at that time. If you're trying to shoot when you're jumping up a wall or something. If you don't have the required amount of stamina, then you can't do that action. Gravity and loadouts affect all of this too, with the amount of stamina being used. A couple of other things that I wanted to touch on. There are going to be scanners that help you detect what's behind doors in various rooms. And when it comes to atmosphere, obviously your loadouts are going to be dependent on this. If you're got great explorer loadouts with loads of the detection scanners and things, if you're using vehicles and ground level scans to work out the composition of bases before you go in and that sort of stuff, that's going to help you. You're going to be able to refill your oxygen at certain places. Oxygen will probably cost money for the air tanks and might cost you money to get your oxygen tanks refilled. Don't know about those concepts or intentions yet. The ultimate goal is to have the actor status system to support multiple races, creatures and NPCs, not just humans. Alien ships might have different atmospheric compositions. Aliens you bring aboard your ship may require special life support or containment of some way. We might see drugs, food and drinks that likely affect your stamina and status. Anti-radiation and anti-venom pills, and we might be able to capture alien wildlife and have special containment for them. I think that's actually pretty cool. That's why, I'm really up for big game hunting and capturing little alien wildlife and pets and things. And most of that active status system will be in Alpha 3.0, but with more statuses, buffs, and that sort of stuff added as we move forward. Expect to see environmental effects like being too cold in a snowstorm and things like that in the future too, and that's going to be an important part of medical gameplay as well later, with downed players and bleeding players needing healing and stabilization. That actor status system there really being useful for that. Every month we give away a ship. For September it's a Nox Q. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen content during that month. Do you have any questions about Alpha 3.0, about Star Citizen's development in general, or the actor status system, breathing, stamina, anything like that? I am very much looking forward to the way that's going to change Star Marine, actually making it a much more strategic tactical shooter rather than run and gun. That is the best thing that's come from this when it comes to Star Marine, but it's an important core concept for Star Citizen. A special thank you to my Patreons for allowing me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, please find the link to Patreon as well as everything else we've discussed below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I will see you in the verse.